Hey guys, welcome to week 3 of the Coaches Podcast, the Coaches Show with Coach Cale Sanders. Coach, how you doing?
I'm great, man.
Good. Doing a little bit better now with a win under your belt.
A little better. Yeah, a little.
Yeah. So I wanted to get into just like firing away. We just saw our first win happen on Friday. It was looking great, and then it got choppy at the end, got a little nerve-wracking for us up in the booth. Can you kind of walk us through what you were feeling in that game late?
Yeah, I felt the same thing. I felt like it was pretty much under control, and then all of a sudden, you're looking at, a 2-point game and a 1-point game, and then, oh crap, we're trying to stop a 2-point conversion to stop this thing from going into overtime.
Yeah.
I didn't really feel it. I felt like we had it in hand until that, like the snap before the 2-point. I was like, holy cow, this thing, like, we're fixing to go to overtime. Luckily our defense did a great job and got a stop and got us out of there. But it's just, just things didn't go our way, and we had some boo-boos that cost us dearly. And so, hats off to Goddard. They fought, they stayed in it. Typical Goddard football team, they stayed in it and gave us, and then they've done that to us for several years now. I mean, every year I've played them, they'll never quit. So
yeah.
Same with that one. So I'm just, like I said, we made a lot of mistakes. We had a lot of boo-boos. Defense played well. Defense played real well. You can't give them the ball in the 2 and expect anybody to keep them out of the end zone. But we still got a lot of stuff to fix, and a lot of stuff to get better at. But at the end of the day, even with all of that stuff, and you get a win, you can consider yourself pretty lucky.
Yeah,
we're really fortunate that we were in that situation and that we got out of there with the win. Most of the times you don't do that. So, hopefully you kind of still have that sting of, man, we didn't do good, but all right, good. Mm-hmm. We still got out of there with a W. So.
Yeah. Well, guys, today's podcast is brought to you by J.S. Ward & Son. Big shout out to our sponsor. Serving New Mexico communities from Artesia to Roswell, Carlsbad, and the Permian Basin for 10 decades. You get a dedicated team, agents who understand your world and respond when you need them, and manage claims for you. J.S. Ward & Son. Big thanks to our sponsor. All right, Coach. So part of the way that the defense was really put to the test was turnovers in the red zone. So some of that came from like balls that were missed on snaps and things like that. What was going on there? Was it a communication issue?
No, both of them were just aired snaps. They really were. The one was on the punt and it just sailed. The other one was, it was on a play where we were actually, and it was a worst case scenario. It was a screen, and we had one side of the line just completely leave, and the other side's going the other way. So there was 0 people. There was literally not a single soul blocking. It was actually like a little tunnel screen. And so everybody left. So nobody was blocking. We snapped it over his head, and they just had a free run at us. And,
right.
It's just, how those things work. It always works out the bad way. But yeah, it's just aired snaps. And we had several of those this week. So needless to say, we've got a lot of extra snaps in this week. And, with that, they're getting, anywhere between, 50 and 100 extra snaps every day in the indoor. So,
yeah.
It's just one of those things where I just think we just kind of got a little anxious and got a little jumpy trying to get out and, get to our assignment. And, we forgot to do the first part right. So.
Mm-hmm. As far as the defense goes, I thought, and a lot of people that I've talked to were really proud of their performance. There's only so much you can do when you're, backs against the wall, Do you feel like when they came out of that game, after almost giving up 0, ended up giving up 14, that changed the way that they felt? Or do you think they came out of that game really confident?
No, I still think they came out confident. They understand. I mean, at the end of the day, you saw the stat lines and the yardage and what they did. And, and we still had boo-boos on that side too. That last drive, we didn't have a single 3 and out until when we got the ball with 2.5 minutes left and we had to punt. It was like that's the absolute worst time to not sustain a drive. And we call it the 4-minute drill. It's just basically run the ball, kill the clock, eat as much clock as possible. We went 3 and out. And, I'll take some blame for that. We went to some heavy packages with stuff, and some of those kids were confused. And, that's stuff that we're not – I wouldn't say we're not good at, but we don't spend near as much time on as, our regular offense. So lesson learned there. But, Yeah, I think the defense still comes out of that with a little bit of a with the little chest raise and a little bit of confidence, because they did some really good things. They had some really good kids on that Goddard football team, and especially on their skill side. So to hold them with what they did, barring the giving them the ball at the 2 and the inside that red zone, I thought they did really good. So.
Yeah. Okay, so this week we saw it. I feel like maybe a little bit more of a clicking is going on at the quarterback position. What are you feeling like is to come? Maybe against Lovington, Eloy just a bit off on some of his throws. Is he getting more comfortable? Are you starting to see something different?
Absolutely. I think that was a good game for him. We still had a ton of schematical errors and getting stuff lined up, and just him feeling comfortable. Even with that being said, he still had a good game. He did some really good stuff. But I think we were really close. Hopefully this is the week where he gets that swagger and he feels comfortable. I think the first couple of weeks it's there's a lot of it's right there. That game's going really fast. And granted, Eloy's been on the field for 2 years now, and the lights aren't scary, but when you're running the show, it's a whole nother story. And he's doing a good job, and it'll all click with him. He's a smart kid. He's an athletic kid. He's got he checks all the boxes, so he'll be fine. It's just whenever that thing goes, I tell him every day, you guys are scary, dangerous, and once we get it all on the same, everyone clicking on the same, we're going to be pretty explosive. So.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Okay, moving on into week 3. We're playing against Lovington. In Lovington, we're on the blue turf. What is to be expected from this Lovington squad?
Lovington, these guys, it's almost like Artesias playing in Lovington on the Smurf turf over there. That's what they do in Lovington. It's Friday Night Lights. They show out, so it's always a good atmosphere. They always bring a lot of energy. Their kids are always they're up for it. You can just tell those kids they're excited to play football, and they don't have a ton of kids. They had about a bunch of kids going both ways, but they'll get after you. So if you compare them to Goddard, they're similar. I think they may be a couple notches above Goddard.
We talk about it every year that we've had the show going together, that the first road trip is a big deal. What are you going to see, or what do you anticipate to see out of this group of players in terms of like the maturity level and the leadership on the road?
So we try to embed that stuff during the summer. So, when we go to 7-on-7s, coach is like, hey, we'll come to you or whatever. And I'm like, we'll go to you. Like, we'll go and we'll travel. And I try to travel as much as possible in the summer. And I try to, and all my coaches are like, why are we always on the road? But like, for me, I love to travel early to get it. Because you always have boo-boos. You got those young kids, the kids that are just in this, they're sophomores. It's the first time they've ever really traveled, and they don't know how to travel on a bus, or they're goofy, or they got their phones, and whatever they sophomores or new guys do, and we get all that stuff kind of squashed and ironed out in the summer and get them used to traveling, and so I don't see anything different. I actually like it. There's less kids traveling. There's less distractions. There's less, just people that could pull you away from the end goal. And so for me, I'm like, it's kind of nice to get on the road and get out of here. Yeah, no, absolutely. I noticed this last week, we saw some other guys, maybe more targets this week. We saw Braden Flores get a couple of targets, made a nice catch, made a nice run, got some good yards after the catch. And then also RJ Hernandez kind of getting back into the mix. We've seen him over the last couple of years getting some targets, but what are we going to see in them going forward? Starting with B-Flow, he's just a big kid. He's the prototypical, what we call an H, that kind of hybrid tight end / wide out, where he could be attached and he can actually down somebody, and block for us. And then in the same breath, you can split him out, and he's got good enough hands, and he can run routes and do all that stuff. You know, kind of use him like a basketball. You know, post him up and throw the ball to him around a little bit. And he's young. He played a little bit for us last year, but this is kind of his first big time role. And he's doing a really good job, so I'm proud of him. RJ, I absolutely love that kid. You know, we actually named him a captain because he's just one of those kids. He knows everything. He understands what we're trying to do. He knows every position. He's so valuable to us when it comes to, hey RJ, we're gonna put Bobby over here, and RJ's like, all right, cool, I'm gonna go over here, and he'll know what to do, and we won't lose a lick.
That's huge.
Yeah, it's huge. He's a really smart kid, and he does really good, and he's been in the system, and I'm telling you, he's got some mitts on him too. He can catch the ball, and he just does everything right. So super proud to have him. He's kind of the glue, honestly, that makes that offense goes, because there's a lot of characters on there, and RJ's pretty even kill, and he'll get down on himself sometimes, but he's it's gonna really stink to miss a guy like that.
Yeah,
so.
No, absolutely. So we've talked about the fact that obviously nice new facilities, all that stuff. What's the locker room environment right now? You know, obviously preseason is a lot different than game time or game season when we're getting into the regular season. What have you seen kind of shift?
I'm kind of seeing him grow up a little bit, to be honest. It seems like, you get into this facility and it's like, you got this sense of pride and you got this like responsibility to take care of this and the name. And, I see those guys, they're really stepping up. You don't see it. They're still kids. They goof around, they have fun. To me, kids, and I always tell the coaches, and I don't know if they might think I'm crazy, but when we'll go out to practice, I can tell the health of our team just based off the chitter chatter and the chirping.
Okay.
If they're chirping and talking and cutting up and goofing around, like I'm like, okay, we're not tired, we're healthy, we're ready. We got some juice in the tank. Today's gonna be a good day. Instead of most times, people want to kill that. Like, hey, shut up, be quiet. No, I mean, like, and it's tough because that old school coach wants, that whole, we're going to walk the line and we're going to military. And so it's hard sometimes, especially with some of the stuff that we're doing as far as the training goes. We're giving them plenty of rest. And, it's used to be like, you don't sit down, it's just like, go let them rest. And then, get back into what you're doing. So I just think, when you say asking about the locker room, you see that the energy and the chirpiness in there, and they're not acting a fool, and so it's been good. I don't hear Coach Simpson yell 2 or 3 times.
Yeah. So you're feeling like these are the kinds of teams that make memories for life. That going forward, they're like, man, I miss it so much because I had so much fun and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to do, or what I wanted to ask you about, we talked about it off camera, was your training. It's different this year. We really haven't discussed it here on the podcast, but it is a different way of like resting and spurts.
It's different, and without getting into like the nitty gritty of it, basically we're prioritizing speed over everything, and we're using a ton of data and technology to track that, help us be better coaches with getting good information, not, our kids are tired today. Well, does our GPS load say are we really tired, or do we just think they're tired? Or, and we talked to the kids today about it actually, and talking about their player loads, and, we can look at it and see, okay, what they're expending on a Friday night versus what they're doing during the week. And we're trying to match that weekly load up to a Friday night football game. And, so we're like, hey guys, you got to help us out, because Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I want it to be this X amount, quote unquote, number of where we need to be. Friday night is this number. Like, if we're not doing what we need to do on during the week, as far as effort and going hard and going fast, we don't get the right numbers. And so I can't make the right recipe to make all that stuff work. And basically, it's complicated, but it's really not. We're going to prioritize speed, and then we prioritize rest, and you just repeat it. And then we focus on max velocity, a lot of max velocity stuff. And, the old school way of, the weight room's the end all be all, which weight room is still crazy important. You still got to be strong. You still got to, keep yourself healthy, sure. But, it's not our number one priority. And so, when we first started this thing, you can see that y'all can't see them on camera, but there's some speed limit down here, speed limit signs. And when we first started this in January, we had 2 guys that was over 20 miles an hour. And then that's on a laser or GPS. When we took our last little total club speed totals or whatever, we had 21 kids that were going over 20 miles an hour. So it's definitely working. It's also for the coaches too. It's a lot of less time up here. I give them the weekends off. A lot of people bring them up on Saturday and Sundays and do their stuff, and I don't want to see them. Go home. We got technology, Google Drive and text message and huddle, and we can get everything that we need to get done on the weekends. I still want them to work. They just do it at their house.
Yeah.
It just a burned out coach is no good either.
And you have coaches that are very dedicated, I've noticed.
Absolutely.
Like,
and I have to tell them, go home.
Yeah.
I don't want you here. Go rest. I probably should heed some of my own advice on some of that stuff. But, it just is what it is. So, it's the whole thing. And it's definitely, it's a challenge for coaches because a lot of coaches are ingrained in that old school, grinder mentality. And it's hard for them to let go and be like, hey, maybe I wouldn't say this is the way, you can win the other way.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. The kind of where we got it from, they're like dumb beats dumber every time. So, with us, it's, for me, we've done the grind. We hammered these kids for the last 2 years. I'm talking, there's nobody that worked as hard as we did. I mean, we put them through the ringer. And the outcome was the same. And unfortunately, it was the same. So to me, it's like, what do we have to lose? Like just doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting the same, different results. That's insanity, right?
Yep.
So why not try it? And you really dive into it. It makes a lot of sense. You want the kids to have fun. We want football to be the best part of their day. If they're not happy and excited to come to football, then they're not going to give you a lot of good effort. If it's something that they love and they're excited and they want to do it, they're going to show up and they're going to give you good effort. It's just like if they love to play video games, they're probably going to be good at it.
Yeah.
So I want them to be the same. I want this to be the best hour and a half or whatever a day. I want them to be excited to be here. So, we kind of like just keep the reins on them. And then when it's time to go, you let them go. And so, so far, so good as far as, training and health and the overall atmosphere. We got to see what it brings, throughout the season. And we're learning too as coaches. There's stuff that we're like, oh crap, that wasn't good. Let's try this next week. And so it'll take years to get it all ironed out. And then there'll be something else new. But it's something that we've jumped in the deep end of it, and I like it. So I would hope that the kids like it too, because they're a lot. We're not just beating them down,
right? Yeah.
And and the other side of that is you got kids that are walking around that campus up there that they're not playing football because they've driven by the field house in the summer, and they're out there pulling ties and puking, and they're like, I ain't gonna go do that. Why would I go do that and go be 2-8? So if they the word of mouth is hey, it's not like that no more. We're training different. You should come out, and if it helps me get a couple more kids or a handful of kids, who knows? And we're not big enough to not share kids. So, it's one of those things where if I can get 1 or 2 kids, it could be a difference maker for us. So
100%. Has it been since you started as head coach here at the high school that you've always had morning practices?
Yeah. So when Sukup was here, he would go in the afternoons.
Okay.
And And we share a facility too. So soccer also practices, and we have a schedule. And just to really honestly to combat all the conflicts, nobody wants to go in the morning at 6 o'clock. For us, it's couple fold. You get it out of the way. Your kids are done. I want them out of here. Bell rings at 4 o'clock. Go home. I don't want them hanging out here all day and then having to get up and go to school. Like, go home, get your rest. As coaches, it gives us time to work in the afternoon. It gives us time to go out with the freshmen if we need to, because they do practice in the afternoons. It allows us to go to junior high games. You know, so it gives us a lot of options, and then we don't have to fight with the field. And I don't know, it's just, you know, if those kids know that they have to be at practice at 6 o'clock in the morning, they're not roaming the beach at midnight. You know, so that helps them get in bed too. So
that's a good point.
It's been good for us. I mean, you know, the double-edged sword is that is kids are kids, and they're going to sleep in sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh, of course, I've had so many. I slept through my alarm, coach. You know. But I mean, they're pretty solid with it. So,
speaking of time and getting into bed, what is your typical day here in terms of time? Because I know on average you are here extremely early.
Yes. And
you leave after everyone else. So what is that time looking like?
And
how do you survive?
A lot of nicotine. No. Typically, I'm usually here between 4 and 4:30, 4:45, somewhere along in there, 5 o'clock. Sometimes I sleep in until 5.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it's that, and then everyone kind of gets out of here, and I usually leave here 10:30, 11, sometimes 9. On a good night, it's 9. It's for me. I get pulled in so many directions during the day that early morning couple hours and that late night couple hours are like the only time I really truly have to get my stuff done. Yeah. And I just kind of go in there and put the music on and work on a script or watch film or, most of the emails or, whatever. It's got to be done that week. But to me, I enjoy the alone time.
Yeah.
I'm that guy that just, I could, you always see those things like, could you live on an island for so-and-so? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, no problem.
For no price.
No price. No price at all.
No, there's just something about at night that like extreme focus because things are quieter. There's not as many things going on, even just birds, things like that. I mean, just the sound alone can really make you lock in. Do you feel like you get more done at night or just all day you're just like...
It's all like during the day when the kids are there, I don't get nothing done because it's somebody needs this or what about this or the coaches will need this. What are we going to do for practice? What's the weight room look like? Blah 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 blah. It's always something, and then of course we have a full-time job in the being a teacher as well. So it's I'd probably say the mornings because it seems like the mornings it's like I have something I like. Hey, we're starting at 6:30. Like, I need to finish that script, get it done. Like it seems like the morning seems to be a little bit more productive.
Okay, very cool. My last question for you is kind of a fun question, I guess.
Come on.
Throwing it to, back in the day. Okay, first off, I want to say this. I was in class, somebody sent me or showed me a video that was old of me, right? Uh-oh. And I said, throwing it back. And now that doesn't mean like throwback. Mm-mm. That means like backing into somebody, like backing your butt up.
Yeah. Like
and so the whole class laughed at that. So disclaimer, that's not what I meant. But anyways.
Back it up.
So throwing it back.
Yeah.
When you were, playing ball, whether high school, college, are there any things that you remember specifically that you're like, wow, I can't believe I did that? Like, some type of nutrition, some type of training regimen that you're like, what was I doing? Are there any of those that you can think of?
Yeah, I mean, when I go back to my high school days, it was the Goddard Rockets and we pulled ties and that was the way of the world. And, I can't say I'm too far out from believing that. And I still think there's some really good things to that stuff. But, kind of with the new training and stuff, you're like, holy cow, you did that every single day. Like you're there's just some negative effects to that. There's
Right.
some positives to it. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong. There's some stuff that those railroad ties create that nothing else does. But you know, I know in college I was pretty hardcore when I actually finally bought in and like got serious about it and did just get by talent. Then I would literally get up. I lived outside of town, about 6 or 7 miles. I would ride my bike to the field house. Me and a couple guys, we would work out. We'd literally work out from 8 o'clock till like noon, and then we'd run for a couple hours. Like we would work out
Wow.
for like, I don't know, 4 or 5 hours. And I look back on that, I was like, that's crazy. Like,
That is crazy.
What were we doing? Like, one, you weren't probably doing it right because you were probably jacking around because you shouldn't take that long to work out. But yeah, we did some stuff. Yeah, it's but nothing too crazy as far as like, you know, I don't know, Junction Boys or anything like
Yeah.
that. We didn't have anything like that.
Or anything that you think back then worked and you're like, it would still work today? Because I know I've heard people like, you know, protein drinks, drink protein drinks. And then some people say, hey, chocolate milk has the same effect on your body and those types of things, right? Do you ever think about anything that's maybe changed in that aspect? Eggs? Did you ever drink raw eggs?
No, I was a creatine guy, and I don't think that's
Okay.
I don't think that's changed one bit. I think
there's more
that's-
science behind it that it's better now than it used to
Yeah,
be.
it's creatine is solid gold. You
Yeah.
know, it has its time and place. You know, I don't think you really need to be heavy to, you know, into creatine during the season. It does, you know, take a lot of water from you.
Yeah, it
So,
dehydrates you. a
yeah,
bit,
so you kind of want to wing that off during the summer, but it is a great, you know, and it's just old school. It's protein and creatine, you know. And I always tell our kids, you know, whatever your max goal weight is, say you wanted to be 185 pounds, you need 185 grams of protein a day, and you know, protein's harder than carbs. Carbs are cheap. Protein's a little bit different. So we try to keep that in our kids. You know, we don't give them creatine. Wish we had the means to do that, but we don't. But we do go. We got protein bars and then protein shakes, and we have a fridge full of it, and the kids are welcome to it whenever they want.
That's
so,
awesome.
You know, they usually all come by and get one after workouts. So
Yeah.
we try. It's not enough, but it's better than nothing. You know, 30-gram protein shake and a 20-gram protein bar. You know, that's 50. It's pretty good. Some of
Not
these
bad.
kids don't do anything else for the rest of the day.
Oh,
So
I know. That's
it's-
crazy.
yeah.
Blows my mind.
yeah, gummy bears and
Yeah.
like hot
Exactly.
Cheetos and
Energy
and a
drink
Coke.
at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So,
All right, Coach. Well, good luck. I would look
I
forward to
appreciate
it.
it.
We'll be there at the game in Lovington, and
I'll
we
be
hope to
there
see
too.
the W. Yeah, you'll be there.
Yeah,
Good.
I'll
I'm
be there
glad you
too.
will be.
Yeah.
All right. Good
all
luck.
right, thanks, bud.